All right, here's part 2, code and web images, right? And so we're going to see how to use HTML, CSS, and some things about the web, but in the next section we'll see about JavaScript using the same files. So in your downloads, you should see a folder called Jellyfish. And inside it, you'll notice there's two folders, and one has something called a CSS file, one has an image. And we have this thing, this index.html. We're going to have to come back here, but first let's open this up and see what our code looks like in our index.html, and that's our home page, and we call it index.html because the main file of any folder of a web page is usually named index. So we need to find VS Code Studio or whatever it's called, right? And I know it's not on your things here, Visual Studio Code. So go to your applications folder or do a command spacebar search for Visual Studio Code and open that up. And once it opens up, there it is, right? I have something open, but I'm going to show you right from the beginning. Now, you don't open files in Visual Studio Code, which sounds weird, but you open a folder. So you're going to go to File, Open Folder, and we're going to find our desktop digital design Jellyfish, right? That's what we want to open. We don't want to click on anything over here or it'll only open that section. We want all of it. So we hit open, and then you'll see in the left here that we have all of those things that we just saw, and we want to click on index.html. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So we have to look at how a web page works, right? You'll see a web page is this bunch of code, right? This HTML code. And we first declare what type of page it is, right? We tell the computer, well, what kind of document is this? And then we wrap everything in these HTML tags. So we call these things tags, these things with these little carrots on each side. And that has to wrap all of the rest of the page, right? This is the only thing, and then everything has to be in here. Then we have only two things can be direct children of this HTML tag. They are the head and the body. So the head, you see right here, is where generally you'll write all of your instructions for a website. These aren't things that the people see when you go to a web page. These are links to how we style things. It's telling our browser to be responsive, things like that, right? Which character set of letters that you use, right? Kind of complicated. You don't have to worry about that. Everything the person's going to see has to go inside the body. So everything that your paragraphs, etc., our images are all going to go in here. They cannot be outside. Nothing can be outside of either the head or the body. Now, sometimes we'll also write some instructions in this body, and you're going to see that in action when we get to the JavaScript portion. And I'll explain why that is when we get there. But anyway, looking through our next things, we want to write our first HTML, right? So we're going to write a header tag. So there's many different header tags, H1, H2, H3, all the way up to H6. That just indicates how important the header is, right? The whole point of HTML is for semantic markup of your content, which means you're indicating what type of content it is. And so every HTML tag starts, most HTML tags, I should say, start with the tag name in these brackets, these caret brackets, and then end with this caret bracket with a slash in it. And we put all of the content, the thing we want, in the middle. So we'll put hello world, right? And now notice, anytime you have a dot here in VS Code, that means it's not saved. So make sure you learn to save. I suggest Command S, but you could do the slow way and go File, Save. So yeah, okay, we changed something, but how do we see it in the browser? For that, we need to mosey back to our desktop or our Finder and find it here. And where we were at, right, we're going to right-click or control-click on this, and we're going to open up with Google Chrome. Why Google Chrome? I don't know. I think it's the best browser. It would be just as valid for, we're not doing anything that complicated, so you could open it in Safari or Firefox, and it's not a big deal. I always set mine to be default in Google Chrome. So when you go there, you'll see, right, we have a file that's open, and so that's why it looks like this. And this is a file path on your computer where that file exists, right? So don't worry about that. We'll get more into it if you take interactive design, but here we see our hello world is on the page, but we don't see any of that other gobbledygook, right? Because that's all hidden from the viewer, right? This is our content. Now, how is it styled? It's the default styles of the browser, and we can override that. So let's move on here to our next section. We're going to add some text to our page. So I'm going to come back over here, and we need some text, right? So we're going to go to lipsum.com. I'm going to generate 2 paragraphs, and I'm just going to grab these 2 paragraphs right here, copy. And I'm going to go back to VS Code and paste them in. Now, you're going to see it like this on mine because I already have set up my word wrap. It's likely that when you did it, you pasted this here, and I'm just going to go hit tab here so they start on the same line. It's just nice to keep things nice and neat when you write code. And that's kind of annoying that you have to go all this way to get to the end. So the first thing you should do is go ahead and turn on word wrap. And I know it's not in the instructions, but I fixed the instructions for next semester. If you're watching this video, this semester I didn't fix the things. So I'm going to hit save again, and I'm going to mosey back over to my browser and hit refresh, Command R, or hit your little refresh button. Now notice what happened. We pasted 2 paragraphs in, but it looks like 1 paragraph. And why is that? Well, it's because we didn't mark it up using HTML. Right now we just put text in here. So we have to actually wrap these paragraphs and tell the computer, hey, these are separate paragraphs. So what we do is we use the P tag for paragraph, right? These tags are existing tags, and you can look at documentation. Now, sometimes it's a pain that VS Code completes your tag for you, so you're going to have to cut that back part of it and Command X and Command V, right, to put that there. Same thing on the bottom one, right? So that's Command X, Command V, right? Hit save. We go over, we refresh, and now look, we actually see 2 different paragraphs, right? That's how we need to do that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a link so that we can go to another web page, right? Because that's one of the cool things about interactive media, right? We can put things like you could click things and things happen, or you could take me to other places. So this one we're going to write our link. So underneath your paragraph, the link is an A tag. It stands for anchor. It's a little weird, right? But that's just comes back from when the internet was invented, right? You'll see a link tag later for a different context, but for links in the body, you use the A tag. Now you're going to see this new thing inside of our HTML tag, and that's called a parameter. So parameters are special instructions, right? And they're built into these specific tags. Specific tags have specific parameters, and the one we use in a link is href. That really just means, I don't even know what it stands for. It just means the link that you're going to. So we're going to call it, we're going to go to the Wikipedia page, right? So we're going to say https:// that's our HTML secure protocol, right? That starts every web page. Even if you don't see it in your URL bar, when you go to something, if you double click on it, you'll see it. It's right there. Every web page, you need to have that protocol in. So then we're going to go to n.wikipedia.org/wiki/jellyfish, and notice the uppercase, right? It matters in the names of web pages whether you have the thing. So if I hit save now and go look at it, you're not going to see anything. Why? Because the link's there, but there's nothing for me to click on because there's nothing inside here. So we're going to say click here, save, go back here, refresh, and there it is, click here, and if I click it, jellyfish, right? So we're going to go back here. Okay, great. So we've got some tags going on, right? That's really cool. We've written our first web page. Very simple, right? But let's put in an image. Okay, so I provided you with an image, and I provided with you a couple images, but I want you to prepare an image for the web to know how to do that. So in your digital design download, you'll see jellyfish.psd, and so you can open it up in Photoshop, and I have all these layers in. All we care about is exporting it. Now, there's 2 ways to export it. Over here, there's file export as, right? And we saw one of them during the animated GIF. Export as, right? And this is kind of the more modern way to do it, and this is totally valid. But I'm going to show you the Save for Web Legacy. This one is, this is good. You set your settings and you hit export. All the same settings are there. This is just a little different, right? I'm going to cancel this, and we're going to use that same one we used in the last one just to keep it consistent. So we're going to go to File, Exports. export, save for legacy. I'm so used to quick keys that I don't even know where things are in the menu half the time. So here I want to show you using this, right? So last time we used a GIF. We want to make sure we set it to JPEG. And we want to go through this quality. I just want to show you the difference of qualities because JPEG is a lossy quality and a lossy file type. And what that means is to save file size, bandwidth, you kind of have to have some play with the image a little bit and how it saves it. So what I want you to look at is this quality. Let's bring our quality up to 100. If we brought our quality up to 100, you know, it would look the best it's going to look. But it's also going to be the largest file size possible, right? And this is 388 kilobytes, and that's actually not bad for the modern web. Back in the older days, we had to be really more cognizant, but again, we don't want to serve like 2 megabyte images or anything, right? We want small images. Now, if I bring this all the way to 0, you're going to notice it's really small now, only 31 kilobytes compared to the 388 or whatever it was. But look at the image. It's banded. So what you generally want to do is kind of go Goldilocks. And make it so the image doesn't look too artifacty or artifacty at all while keeping our thing down. And so to do that, I usually wind up being somewhere between 50 and 60 for the web, right? So I'll even be all the way up to 60 here. And now notice it's only 113. We also want to do this optimize, let it try to optimize it for the web, right? So you see the size change a little bit if you don't have this clicked. The last thing we want to make sure that it's sRGB, right? Because that is the profile of images on the internet, right? So we just want that. And so we'll just hit save. Now we got to save it in our images, right? So we got to find our whatever folder you're working in, the jellyfish and this images. So it's really important it goes here. Now we already have one image I put in there called jellyfish.ping. This is going to be jellyfish.jpg. You can't have two files with the same name and the same file extension, but you can have different file extensions. So I'm going to go ahead and click save. And now, sorry, the crows are calling outside the window. Right, I'm going to hit save, and so it's there. I can just go ahead and close this. I don't even have to save it. And when I go back, you'll see now it is in here. So let's put this on, right? So we're going to use a new pattern of HTML. Same thing where we start with this. Now we have a parameter. And so this is where we're pointing to this folder. Now this is, you have to understand this. It's complicated file paths, just kind of do what I do. And later on, if you get more into this, you'll see that, you know, how it works. Now the next thing is we always for an image want to have alt text. Why is that? Not everyone is looking at the internet visually. Some people who can't see, you know, they're using screen readers and stuff. And so you want to provide them an alternate text, and that should describe the image, or in our case where it has some text in it, we can just use the text from it. So we'll say jellyfish fun facts, and I'm even going to say header image just to, I don't know, just to kind of be there. Which reminds me, we wanted to put this somewhere else. So I'm going to cut and paste this up top, but first I'm going to talk about this, right? I'm going to end this one with a /. Why? Because we're not wrapping things the way we were doing with these other tags. So we don't actually have to have you know, a closing tag. We can close the tag cheaper and easier that way. So I'm going to hit Command X, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it above, because this is a header image, bring it above the hello world, hit save, mosey over here, hit return, and here it is. The image is there. But it's giant. And what it's doing is, because we didn't set any of the size, it's going to just show the image at its natural size, as big as I actually designed it in Photoshop. Plus on the web, it kind of, never mind, I'm not going to talk about it. So we need to put in the next thing is control what stuff looks like. And we do that through CSS. That's the presentation layer. So you'll notice that I actually already have written a bunch of CSS. Let's click on styles.css and kind of see what's in here. There's just all this kind of gobbledygook. You don't have to worry what it is. Just know that this is what CSS looks like, and you'll write a little bit in a little while. So we're going to link this. We have to link this style sheet, because right now, you know, this page and this is separate. How does it know to use that code? Well, we're going to link it, and this is where we're going to see the link tag in action. So I'm going to go ahead right here and type, this is number 28. We have to tell it it's a style sheet, so we'll say rel style sheet. And then we're going to tell it where that file exists. So we'll see that href again. and we'll put in css/styles.css. Now, usually, it's not going to kill you. We usually don't actually put the slash in this one for whatever weird reason. We're just going to do that and leave it like that, and it's fine. I'm going to hit save, and now when I go back and I hit return, you should see the code I wrote applying it. So what I did was I put in a blue background here. I took this div container that I wrote already that's in this, and I made it only so wide. I also put a white background on it, and you'll also see that it's a little responsive, right? So if I take my thing and I do that, you'll see how the image shrinks to fit and the text reflows. So notice the text is not changing size, but instead it's reflowing, right? That's one of our main concepts of this module. All right, great. We're turning the page, and we're on number, let's see, we got through 29, 30. So we want to get into some activity, some more styling. So right now, our little click here is kind of boring, right? It's kind of just a text link. Let's make it look like a button. Now we could write some code to do this, but let's use an online generator. So if you go to this website, Best CSS Button Generator, it's not the only one out there. It's just the first one I found when I was writing this thing. You can see you can pick any of these, styles here, right? I'm gonna pick the first one. Why? Because green's my favorite color. I'm going to click this right here called Get Code, and now you're going to see what it has here. Now, this is the HTML that it needs to run. We're going to do this ourselves, so do not copy this and put it in the styles.css. It will screw things up. Instead, we're going to click this stuff right here to copy, right? So I have this My button all the way down to this with this last curly brace. Hit copy. We're going to go back over to VS Code, and we're going to our styles.css. And don't just put it anywhere here, right? We don't want to put it inside any of these other ones. Let's go all the way down to the bottom, right? Line 60, Command V. And so we have this, and we save it, and we go back to our page and refresh it, and nothing happens because we haven't, made this happen. So this is what's called a class. This is, right over here, I used a container class. This is just saying about images. So classes are just one of those things that we use in HTML. It's just what it is like now we can use this on every button we design, and we put a class and they'll all have the same exact design. That's what a class is. So we need to take this My button and put it on our link. So up in our link here, inside, right? So we're inside our opening HTML tag. I'm just going to put a space here, and I'm going to say class equals My button. And yes, the capitalization matters. Make sure it's in here, right? So notice we have this. This is the closing, the closing bracket for the opening tag, and this is, we call that the closing tag, right? I'm going to hit save, and now when I go back, there it is, right? And it even has some hover things, right? So you'll notice that it has the style, but when I hover it, it hovers. If I was to click it, it actually kind of goes down a little bit, right? So that all happens here, right? So you see, this is the general styling. This is saying, hey, on hover, change that color. And this one's saying, hey, when this is being pressed, change that position just a little bit, right? So that's what's happening there. You should know. Again, and if you go more into this, you'll really understand how this works. So the last thing we're going to do is make a fun little, have a jellyfish kind of running around, right? We're going to show some motion design using nothing but CSS, right? Because CSS does some interactivity in motion. So this is going to be based on all this code I wrote here. You see this thing's called keyframes here, and this is me writing the motion in code. And then this is actually the thing that we need to put in there to call this. See this my_anim, right? This is how it's all going to go together. So we're going to go back to our index page, and at the bottom we're going to go ahead and put in another image. So we'll say image source equals and images. We want this time the ping, right? And we're going to give it an alt text, right? Remember, for people who can't see it, we'll just say jellyfish, or we can even say jellyfish moving. And then we're going to call that class to bring in my CSS code, right? And that class is just simply called jellyfish. And I'm going to make sure I hit /caret to close my image tag. And when I hit save and come over and return, look, I've got this fun little jellyfish, kind of doing some jellyfish movement up our page as we look at it. Would we really do this in real life? Probably not, but you know, it's just fun. And so that is just a very bare bones, quick, dirty introduction to how you build a web page. Right? That's different than design, right? There's design concerns, but this is really how all web pages work. They just get more complicated from here.